Once again, good morning and welcome to 1 Million Cups Kansas City. My name is Courtney. I'm one of your community organizers, along with Brian, Britton, Milton, and Toby. So we would like to welcome you here. We are a weekly entrepreneurial program. We have 2 companies that present for 6 minutes, and then we open it up to our panel and then Q&A for the audience. So if you have a question for the presenter, please raise your hand and we will come around with a mic. Who's here for the first time today? Raise your hand. Wow, thank you for joining us. I would like to introduce our expert panel. Joe Keith, will you please say hello?
Hi, I'm Joe Paiva. I'm with GeoLearn. We are an online education company for the geospatial industry specializing in video.
Good morning. My name is Keith Baird. I'm with a company here in town called Pivot International. We are a product design, product development, product engineering, contract manufacturing, offering single-stop services to our clients for all their product needs.
Thank you. I would like to welcome our first presenter up to the stage, Michael Sewell with Step and Pull.
Good morning. Morning. I'm here today with my 2 business partners, Ron Eli and Kelly Coddington. We're the owners of a Springfield, Missouri-based company called KRM Innovations Incorporated, and we're the inventors and producers of a simple yet innovative piece of commercial door hardware called Step and Pull. Let me grab my clicker here. You notice how touchless fixtures are commonplace in many public restrooms these days. Companies spend hundreds, even thousands of dollars on these devices so that you can go from the toilet to the sink to the hand dryer without touching a single thing. It's great, isn't it? You don't have to touch a shared urinal or toilet handle to flush. You walk over to the sink and you wave your hand underneath the touchless soap dispenser, and then you wave your hand underneath the touchless faucet. Then you walk over to the touchless paper towel dispenser. You take a swipe and out pops a paper towel. Then you take another swipe because one's just never enough, right? You got to have 2 if you're like me. Or maybe they've got one of those very efficient yet very loud turbojet hand dryers. They're so loud you can't hear yourself think, but they do a great job of drying your hands. But with all those touchless devices, there's still one touch point that has remained unconquered, and that is the door handle. You know, after all, what's the point in installing all these touch-free fixtures whenever you still have to grab onto the door handle to exit? Well, if you're lucky, there might be paper towels that you can use to grab onto the door handle to exit. Or what if they're just hand dryers? You might rush back to a stall and grab a wad of toilet paper to use. Or you might patiently stand by the door and wait for somebody to come in so you can dart out that open door. If all else fails, you quickly analyze that door handle, and with the end of one of your fingers, you grab onto the part that you think's been used the least. And why are so many of us concerned about touching a door handle anyway? Well, it's because we know that many people don't wash their hands properly after they use the restroom, if they wash them at all. CDC's reveal that 1 in 5 people don't wash their hands after they use the restroom. You can believe it, 50% of the people don't use soap when they wash their hands, and then only 5% actually wash their hands thoroughly for 15 to 20 seconds. You know, and businesses know this. They know that we don't want to touch that door handle. That's why you see those waste baskets by the exit door. You know, that with the twice-used paper towels, they're used once to dry our hands and then the second time to grab onto the door handle. You also see it in the way restrooms are designed. Some restrooms have a maze-type entrance-exit and there's no door. And other restrooms you see where they've designed it where the bathroom door pushes out if there's room and if it's safe. So it's apparent that businesses need a touch-free solution for the bathroom door. Well, we've invented what we believe to be a perfect solution to that problem. It's called Step and Pull. Step and Pull mounts to the bottom corner of a commercial latchless door, and it gives you the option of pulling the door open with your foot instead of grabbing onto the door handle. And while Step and Pulls have been installed primarily on public restroom doors, they've also been installed in other applications where hands-free operation is desirable, you know, such as, say, a patio door in a restaurant where the servers or bussers' hands might be full, front door of certain businesses like a laundromat or an auto parts store, maybe a shipping store, where customers' hands could be full. And they've even been installed on clean room doors in pharmaceutical manufacturing plants. So what I'd like to do now is just show you a short video that our European partner made a few years ago. It nicely demonstrates the benefit of having the Step and Pull option. This is a European video, so just why it's doing it. I want to just go past. I'm sorry, we should have probably tried that before I usually don't have an issue with the video. But anyway, hopefully you got the point of it, kind of what I illustrated earlier with the issue in the restroom with people not washing your hands, and then you can pull the door open with your foot, and obviously the video failed there. But if you have questions after, here in a little bit, we can explain it some more. But I got a few more slides to go through before we open it up for questions. Our design evolution, our initial strategy with the product design was we wanted to create the lowest cost possible, lowest cost to manufacture, but of course it had to be functional and durable. And we looked at plastic and metal materials, ended up with extruded aluminum, which we still use today. And our current step and pull dimensions, they remain the same as they were from the beginning. We have made a few design improvements through the years, though you'll see here in a few slides. Manufacturing, very first 300 we had made by a local manufacturer in Springfield, Missouri. And then we said, heck, we can do this. So we started making them in our garage. We made several hundred with a chop saw and a drill press. But then in late 2008, a large manufacturer in Springfield approached us about partnering up, and they wanted to make step and pulls for us. We said, sure. We worked with them for the next several years, and they helped us incorporate some of the design improvements that we had. But in late 2013, we decided we wanted to source all those steps of the manufacturing process on our own. So now we work with 3 companies in Southwest Missouri that are listed up there on the screen. Top left is we had several prototypes in the beginning we looked at. That's one of the first ones. But in the top center is the first one that we actually mounted on a door that was used. The top right, 2 design improvements. We added a 3rd screw hole and countersunk the screw heads. The bottom left, we added bumpers so that if there was concern with the face of it hitting the wall when the door was fully open, the bumpers would protect it. The center, you can see it's powder coated. We started engraving our name on it. We added grooves in the lip to improve traction when you step on it. Then on the far right, you can see the 3 finishes that we currently offer, and you might notice the logo difference. We just went through a logo update in the last couple months, and we're really happy with the way our new logo looks. Excited about that. Then after 8 years of waiting and wondering if we were going to get it, this summer we were awarded our utility patent. It actually was tied up for 2 years in the appeal process with the patent office, and they added that onto the end of our term. So our patent is good through 2030 now, and we're super excited about this. This is a big accomplishment for us, and we know it's the time and money we spent on that's going to pay off in the long run. Yeah, so that's it. I appreciate everybody's time this morning coming out. I know you all are busy, so thanks for coming out to be with us, and I'd like to open it up for questions if you have any.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, so over here,
Yeah.
First question is, how does the door deal with this? Because the hinges and so forth weren't designed for this purpose where you have pretty much close to a person's body weight right at the very end. So how do doors do about this?
Well, the doors hold up really well, and we've actually worked with the local door suppliers in Springfield. We've talked to them about that stress on the door, and what we've been told and what we've experienced through the years is that when the doors are installed properly, it's not an issue. We've had them on doors since 2008. If a door is not installed properly, it can stress, the door, and it's a possibility, but it hasn't been an issue for us. We've had and as far as body weight, you don't, again, you couldn't really see how that was used, so, you know, in the demo, but you really don't have to put that much pressure on it. And if the door closer, and that's the key, it's not the weight of the door, it's the door closer tension at the top controls how hard that door is to open, which I know you're aware. But the ADA recommends no more than 5 pounds of resistance, and if it's set to the ADA standard, it's really little pressure required. You know, sure, people can stand on it but you know, we haven't had that issue, so.
So what kind, you have a fairly large list of customers on your website. How many of these are out there? Because I haven't run into one that I'm aware of. And the converse question is, what are the barriers to getting people to install this on their doors?
Oh, wow, those are two big questions. So let's go to the first one on the sales. I've actually got a slide here that shows sales. So total right now, 16,000 is what we've sold. What you're looking at is, this is a cumulative total with a year-end total on the far right. So if you look at years 2009 through 2012, very tight, I don't know if there's a pointer on here, no. Anyway, how do I get that off there? You know how I get this off the screen? I'm sorry. Anyway, I'll keep talking. I'll talk over this while we get this fixed. But anyway, there were 4 years we were really close on sales, just 1,400 units a year. Then in 2013, we were up 45% over the previous years. Thank you. And then in 2013, we were up. 2014, we were up another 35%. This year, we're up 70% in sales. So, you know, some people say that 16,000 units, that's a lot, and other people are like, that's all you've sold, you know? I agree, that's not a lot. That's a drop in the bucket. But, you know, based off the sales that we're seeing over the last few years and the growth that we're seeing, it's really starting to take off. So we're excited about the potential for this product and where it's headed. And what was your other question was? Oh, how do we get, so we talked about this even the last 5, 6 years. With a product like this, it's just different, you know? I mean, we've always used a door handle to pull a door open. So it's a mindset change for one thing. First thing is, people don't even know it's out. A lot of people are not aware of it. So, you know, it's about awareness to start with. And then our best advertisement has simply been product placement. You know, you can't just go out and buy airtime and expect, you know, the mass population does not buy this product. It's a B2B type product. So product placement, it's just kind of crept out there as people see it. They like it, you know, so awareness, then they accept it. They go to a place where they use it all the time, like, hey, this is great. I need to tell my, you know, where I work, we need to get these. You know, then it's demand. You get to that demand phase where people start to see them everywhere, and well, you know, they just want to see them everywhere, you know. So awareness, acceptance, demand, that's been, I think, what's driving this growth trend here right now. And we just added a feature on our new website in the shopping cart where we're actually surveying people. One of the required steps to check out is we ask, where did you hear about us? Because we're trying to better understand that sales funnel. You know, the options are customer recommended, which we see a lot of those. Employee recommended, we see a lot of those. You know, heard about it from a family or friend, just did a Google search. You know, there's like 6 different options. So that's going to help us understand how we can drive business.
So my question is really related to the marketing aspect of it that you spoke a little bit to. On the website, I believe I saw that you're in Lowe's, which would be more of a consumer. In my mind, that would be geared more toward the consumer as opposed to the businesses that it seems like you're targeting. Is there a consumer aspect to this that I'm not understanding? I mean, how would me as a consumer, if I went into Lowe's and I purchased this, how would I use that?
Well, again, it's not something you buy for your house, to your point. But Lowe's, we have, and to clarify, when we're in Lowe's, we're not in the store. We're a special order item. So, you know, you can't go into Lowe's and find us on a shelf. You can go to Lowe's and say, I want to buy one of these. They'll order it for you, or you can go onto the Lowe's website, and we direct ship to customers, businesses, usually not individuals. And what we've seen, we're at, same thing with Menards, and they are apparently more of a non-commercial type business at this point. I mean, Lowe's serves a lot of contractors apparently because, and part of it they get free shipping, so I think customers see that and they'll just go ahead and order from Lowe's. We charge shipping on our website, but Lowe's does not. So, yeah.
So again, just to expand on that, then you are focused on businesses, and at this point, your sole marketing plan, it sounds like, has been through references, through referrals, things like that. Do you have plans to expand that? I mean, do you envision working with rep groups or direct sales people in the future to get your product into businesses? Are you trying to contact either contractors or even the door closing people, where this would be an option that they would sell?
We've tried pieces of all those things you've mentioned. From the beginning, we've had individuals that have contacted us and said, hey, this is a great idea. We want to try to sell these on our own. We've had probably 30 or 40 people we've worked with, and none of them honestly have had success. They've just, you can't just walk in usually to a Taco Bell and say, because the decision either isn't made there, the manager's not there. It's, so from that aspect. But we've worked with some other people as far as, we've made cold calls ourselves. We've had other companies, another company we worked with that did some marketing. We've had architects call us, and we worked with architects. We've got besides Lowe's and Menards, we have probably a half a dozen. Granger is another distributor who they send us quote requests all the time. So we have a lot of other smaller distributors too out there that sell anywhere from janitorial supplies or restaurant supplies or whatever. So we have a pretty good distribution chain set.
One more marketing question.
Sure, that's fine.
I'll move on.
That's good.
It seems like if you could get this to where it was mandated or legislated into use.
Yeah. Now you're talking.
That would seem like that would be where your real upswing in your sales would be in that avenue. Have you considered that at all?
Yes, and I'm not sure exactly how to do that. There were some suggestions along those lines, such as like maybe find out different angle like workers' comp. If we could do a study and show that when these are installed in an office that sickness goes down X percentage, and get the insurance companies to see that, and maybe offer incentives to companies that install these, and then that's one way to drive business. Obviously, if we can get, they're in several state, federal facilities across the country. We're hoping somebody will it'll click, a senator, representative, and they'll take it on, and we got to have these in every bathroom across the country, and have some kind of a requirement that a hands-free operated door is required, by 2018 or whatever. So, but it would be great. I agree that, that would be it. But how you accomplish that's another thing.
We'd like to open up some questions to the audience. So if you have a question, please raise your hand.
Good morning. Great presentation. My question is, as you're growing, and I see that your scale there, are you attempting to target specific markets, or like, for instance, the IDD population, or you used to call the MRD, or targeted to see where you can sell this tool? Is there a specific target you're trying to do, and what does that look like?
No, it's really just any, like I said, primarily they go on public restroom doors. So, when any business is big enough to have and right now it works on latchless doors. We're looking at a solution that we can also, so that it will work on a latched door as well. We're working on a solution for that because that'll open up a whole new area for us. But so really any business, any business that has that type of a door, whether it's a restroom door, or like I said, it could be a patio door, it could be a pharmaceutical company, it could be, front door of a business. So as far as targeting, I don't know that, of course there's always the hospitals. We hear, well, what about the hospitals? And, there is some application in hospitals for sure, and we've had a few buy. So, but universities to the government, it's just all over the place. I know one of the gentlemen over here mentioned that they saw our customer list, which we have there's over 1,000 companies that have bought from us, anywhere from, like Google, they bought from us several times for their campuses, Cisco, so it really is just all over the place, which is a good thing for us, so a lot of opportunity.
Got a question for you here in the back.
First off, congratulations on the longevity and sticking with it for such a long time. That's one of the hardest things to keep doing is to keep going when the sales are lower and then cranking them higher. And congratulations on the patent. I'm sure that's going to help out. just in terms of obstacles for other competitors to come in the marketplace. Have you looked into, it seems to me like the only way to really make this thing take off is to get a large volume going, because it looks like it's a smaller volume item, it isn't going to be as profitable for you. Have you checked into either like corporations in terms of trying to get to the corporate markets, and then the people that do actually install all of the hands-free stuff in the bathrooms? A lot of remodeling that's done with that. A lot of contractors. I mean, there's got to be specialists and contractors who specialize in that type of thing, which seems to me that would be the biggest focal point for you, is either getting a corporate to do it for all of their stores, or getting a contractor who does this on a regular basis and does all the remodeling to be able to do that. And a follow-up on that, have you thought about picking a target marketplace like, say, Kansas City or St. Louis, I don't know where you're closer to, and focusing that strategy in that marketplace to see if you can make that fly?
Yes, to your last question, yes, we've looked at that. Haven't really focused yet, but we've talked about, you know, hey, we need to pick a city bigger than Springfield close by, maybe do a radio campaign, maybe, you know, do a blitz on marketing, calling, cold calling, maybe visiting some people. So yes, we've done that. As far as at a corporate level, you know, it goes back to, it's a new product, so, you know, just to be open and honest, there's skepticism from some of the corporations, because at the ground level, a lot of the restaurants, you know, they'll see it works great, no issues, they've been in there for years, but somebody at corporate 4 levels up are like, hey, that's a trip hazard, that's a slip hazard, that's a fall hazard, and then they nix it before even looking at it. So, you know, there was one big corporation that a lady called us, she was interested, she was all excited, they were putting in hand dryers everywhere and she wanted to put it in all the stores. I think it was Kmart, Sears. So she presented it to some of her folks that she worked with, and they shot her down because of the reasons I mentioned. On the other side of that, Macy's approached us, and they set us up as a product in their online system because they did the same thing. They put hand dryers in all of their stores. And so the stores can order directly from us internally through Macy's and their internal ordering system. So, you know, it's just taking time. I mean, that's what we're seeing. We keep coming back. I mean, I hate to say that because that's not a good marketing strategy, but it just takes time for this to creep across and permeate out there, you know, and gain acceptance and momentum. And we're always trying to find ways to push that. And we found some things that work, but not like we'd like to have them work. So.
We have a question on your left in the back here.
So I'm curious at this from a demand perspective. As you said, it's a B2B product, but I can't help but wonder how consumer demand might pull this product into the marketplace. And you know, I'm looking at a room like we're here today. I'm guessing there's 150 people in this room. I get the concept of what you're saying, but I'd really like to sample it. And I just couldn't help but wonder if there weren't one of these put on the restroom doors here at Kaufman, and we could all go straight from the room and say, well, let me try this. How that might, have you attempted to do that when you're out there presenting, getting it in the facility so that people can try it? You know, I'm at Quick Trip a lot. I'd love to see these in Quick Trip if they work as well as they seem to.
So, yes, in Springfield, we presented in Springfield, Missouri, and before we went, we gave them some, and I'd be happy to give anybody that runs the facility here at the office, I'll give you a couple to put on. So that's no problem. Sure, we'll give them to you. You know, as far as the demand part, you're right, and that could possibly be driven by a good social media campaign, which in January, we're gonna hire somebody to help focus on that piece of it. We've even talked about trying to do some kind of viral video that, well, we hope it would be viral, right? We'd make a video and see if we could drive it that way to bring about that awareness and that demand side of it, because you're right, that's what's gonna drive. I really expect as we start looking at the results from people answering the survey in our shopping cart on how they heard about us, I think we're going to see more and more, you know, customer or employee requested, and that's what's going to drive our sales, and that's where we really have to find the most cost-effective way to get the word out there.
One quick follow-up real quick is there's people here from the city of Kansas City, Missouri in here. How nice would these be in public restrooms and parks and recreation? So.
Yeah, it'd be, yes, I agree.
Question front left.
I just wanted to offer you a testimonial. I used your product, I think in Springfield, and I've only seen it one place. I thought, first of all, what a clever idea, and the other thing is completely intuitive to use. I didn't hit myself in the face with the door, I didn't trip over it, it just opens right up. I also have an uncle who's a McDonald's franchisee here in Kansas City, so we should talk.
Okay, yeah, we need to talk, so, yeah.
Question in the middle.
Your success is impressive.
And seems like you're at kind of a point of, maybe reaching the point of scalability, and some rapid growth. How are you, not necessarily thinking about, the marketing or sales, but how are you thinking about the business and how that's going to change, and what are you changing within the business to kind of prepare for that or to create that scalable growth?
Well,
Like on the business side, about like, your employees and how
Right.
yourself.
Well, I mean, we do look ahead, so we do try to look down the road. So what if we get an order for 10,000? Can we meet that? How long will it take? We've talked to our manufacturers, and they've assured us, that they can, there might be a 4-week lead time or whatever. It's hard to say what. I don't think we'll have much trouble keeping up. It depends, if we start selling 100,000 a month, well, then that's going to be a challenge. But we can hire people to help us meet that demand. So. I mean, we do think about it. We do plan for it. So.
Question in the front.
Good morning. Great presentation. Fantastic idea. It's one of those that's so simple, no one thought about it. Going forward, you're obviously at a nice number, but a lower number as far as number of units that you're selling. To make that big jump, is there some strategy sessions going on right now? Is there things that, kind of related to the last question, that are big changes you're thinking about really making that big move? And I guess the last thing too is, have you thought about manufacturers reps?
We've worked, last part of that question, we worked with one manufacturer rep, but we haven't been approached by many. We haven't approached many. There isn't a lot of margin, and it kind of goes back to the question of scalability. We do believe we have enough room in there, money-wise, to be able to absorb some expense costs to run a business as it grows. What was the first part of your question? I'm sorry, got off track.
Really making that big next jump.
So back to the marketing, right? So,
even from thinking ahead with distribution, manufacturing, and obviously your goal is to make this a much bigger production run than you have going right now.
Yes.
Is your team doing that? Or are you working with other people outside the company to just really focus on how can we make this, huge increase, obviously, but how can we make this a really big increase every year?
I think it kind of ties into the previous question, but just as far as scalability and preparing for that. So we are, as far as driving sales, said we're looking at some social media campaigns. We're looking at actually also the person we're going to hire is going to do some calling out to send out samples to some companies and try to drive at the corporate level some interest and see what we can do there. So that doesn't answer all the detail of your question, but we are looking at it. So yeah, trying to be prepared best we can. That's.
Got a question on your left.
I love the product, and I got to say that I've waited for this product for many, many years. I'm not a germaphobe, but it's really bothers me every time I go into a public restroom and can't open the door without, some creative acrobatics, throwing the towel in the trash. But I wanted to ask you, because you brought something up about liability. Has there been any backlash from trip hazards or anything like that? It was a thought so foreign to me. It was, I guess people do think like that, but has there been any kind of backlash from the use of your product? And just curious. So there's
no, and we have I think the only time we get returns are if they like order it for like a latch door and they get it. They get it and they go, well, this won't work on a latch door, and they send it back, which is few and far between. Most people understand it goes on a latchless door. But no, we've had no issues. We do have product liability, of course, you've got to, but haven't had any claims, haven't had any issues with it. It's been, I hate to say that out loud, you're going to jinx us now, but no, we haven't. So, yeah.
Okay, Mike, we're going to wrap it up. But before we let you go, what can we as a community do for you?
Yeah, so, the main thing is just we came here today. We presented in Springfield, Missouri. We were in St. Louis last week. And like I mentioned, it's the awareness, getting the word out. That's the main thing, getting in front of some great, business people to hear about our product if you haven't already. If you've got a business where you can use it, please consider it. Please get with us if you've got any more questions, and just help spread the word. That's what we would need probably more than anything right now.
Great. Let's hear it from Mike. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, we've got a few announcements on the back, and I want to make one quick correction on the first announcement, the Handmade Holiday Sale, December 10th. It says it starts at 16 to 9 p.m., and I think it's going to be 6 to 9 p.m. at Hammerspace. Have you guys heard of Hammerspace? If you've never heard of Hammerspace? If you've never heard of Hammerspace, show me your hand. All right, so Hammerspace is a cool place. A lot of makers go there. I've used them to, when I have a question, like I need to make something, I go there. I think on Thursday nights they have an open house, and you can just meet a bunch of interesting people and start asking some questions about what they're doing. If you have your own problem, you're looking for a solution. It's an amazing resource for Kansas City. So if you've never been to Hammerspace, if you're thinking about making any sort of physical product or electronic or something like that, these people are amazing. They can actually help you find the right people to connect to. So go there at 6 p.m., not 16 p.m., because it'd be tricky. We also have a KC Next Winter Networking event on December 16th, and then the Lean Lab December Happy Hours, December 17th, 4:30 to 6 p.m. at the Sprint Accelerator. That's another cool place to go where you get to meet some interesting people at the Sprint Accelerator. I always enjoy that. That's down in the Crossroads. So we have a moment to recognize somebody who's been here a lot of times. If you've been to 1 Million Cups more than 10 times and you're not part of our mug club, show me your hands. Let's see. Excellent. Okay, Milton. Go for it. Sir, please stand up and tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is J. Edgar Bennett, and I'm the founder of CAVU Healthcare Systems. We provide a lot of services, data collection, and mobile billing on remote sites.
Great. Well, welcome to the Mug Club. That's hot coffee. Be careful there. Next up, we've got Dr. Joshua Sestak from Orion Bioscience. Let's hear it for Dr. Joshua.
Thank you. Doesn't matter how many times I hear it, doctor still seems weird. So, my name is Joshua Sestak. I'm the president and CSO of Orion Bioscience. We're focused on developing therapies to treat autoimmune disease. So you're looking at multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, and autoimmune associated inflammation. And our first target is actually the eye. So the eye presents some really interesting issues scientifically, but I promise the science is going to be very high level and more interesting than technical. But as I said, Orion, we're focused on the eye, and we really have focused on two types of products. The first is to treat inflammation. So inflammation associated with autoimmune disease has been treated the same way for about 50 years. The innovation and technology change has not really done much. And so we're looking at something that can have an immediate impact for patients out there, and it's a way to deliver new drugs to patients to actually be efficacious. And then the biggest thing is actually finding some way to cure these patients. So with autoimmune disease, your body starts recognizing itself much like it would recognize a cold virus or a splinter. It recognizes it as something completely foreign, and it starts attacking itself. And so our second technology really focuses on treating the disease by retolerizing or teaching your body to like itself again. So it's kind of like a drug therapy. And one of the ways that we can do that we already do it, is with allergy shots. So a lot of people, maybe you're allergic to pine trees, maybe you're allergic to cats or dogs. You can go to your doctor for over months or maybe a year. You can get allergy shots, and then all of a sudden you're not allergic to dogs anymore. So we kind of do the same thing with the autoimmune disease, of we retolerize the body to like itself again, or in the case of what we're focused on, it's actually the optic nerve, so the nerve that runs from your eye to your brain. With any endeavor, and especially scientific, the scientific risk is really hard to minimize. You know, you can do as many studies as you want to do. You can prove that it's safe in all sorts of different animals, but as soon as you go into humans, all bets are off. And so the biggest thing that you can do is minimize your execution risk. And we have a team that is really focused and really capable of doing that. Between the four of us, there's over 20 years of experience out in Silicon Valley. This is startup number 7 for our team. Sarah Mary, we're all trained scientists, but Sarah Mary has actually moved back to Kansas City for family a couple years ago and joined Orion. As I said, my name is Joshua Sestak. I was actually a KU grad for my doctoral work and then spun the company out after that. Mike Riley, he is our kind of lawyer Swiss Army knife. And then Corey Berkland is actually a faculty member at the University of Kansas. And this is his third startup here in the Kansas City region. So as I said, this is kind of our science, but at a very high level. Our immediate impact is really looking at moving away from steroids, which have been used for 50 years or more. And one of the ways we can do that is using a technology that we call nanoclusters. So a lot of the new drugs that are out there that are really good at curing inflammation are pretty much like putting a brick into water. So if you imagine putting a brick into your body, there's not going to be much effect. But with our kind of nanocluster technique, we can take something like a lollipop. So I mean, a lot of you have coffee, right? If you stuck a lollipop in here to put sugar in your coffee, it's going to take a long, long time, right? Well, through the process of nanoclustering, we essentially turn that lollipop into powdered sugar, and then if you put powdered sugar in your coffee, it'll go in right away, and then you'll have a nice sweet drink. And so we can do that with drugs that are not steroids, so novel, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, and then put them in the eye and actually treat inflammation and treat the root cause of inflammation with a lot of the problems that steroids have without those problems. So the second technology is really, as I said, focused on reintroducing tolerance, making your body like itself again, and really treating the root cause of that disease. Here, we've really funded it through SBIR research. SBIR is a great mechanism to get free money from the government to do research that's not quite ready to go to market and get us to a point where we can start doing those pivotal studies for the FDA. In both cases, the FDA is a great organization that tells us exactly what they want us to do to put it into humans, and usually that costs a lot of money. So any free money that we can get from the government is always great. But as here, it's just kind of a little pictorial representation of saying, you know, we're taking these parts of the body that are being misrecognized as foreign. We can present it in a way that then the body says, okay, this might not be so bad, and we'll treat actually the root cause of those diseases and hopefully kind of end this cycle of just going back to the doctor to get steroid shots or some other immunosuppressant. And so this is kind of the big thing from an overall perspective. You know, biotech does cost a lot of money. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the 8 to 12 years, $1 billion. That's the entire process from coming out of the university to actually getting it to market and into people. So biotech is kind of a 3 to 5 year segment in there. Yes, the investment is large, you know, typically in the 20 to about $70 million, but the exits are very large and they're growing. So this is kind of a recession-proof business because people keep getting older and they keep getting sick. And even in the last this is about 2 years, the exits, as you see, we always like lines that go up, and the dollar values are just enormous. So I really appreciate you all coming here to listen to me, and I would love to hear some feedback and some questions. I got 12 seconds, all right.
Thank you. We'll open it up to our panelists to go ahead and start the questions. All yours, Joe.
Hi. So when it comes to what you're doing, you talked about two different things, the nanoparticles and then the autoimmune suppression, maybe it would be the right way to describe it. Are these drugs or devices?
We are a drug development company, so they are drug-based technologies. So the nanoclusters is a way to take pure drugs and then turn them, as I said, kind of from a lollipop to powdered sugar. So we don't develop those drugs ourselves. We can in-license through partnering, or we can kind of look at stuff that's on the patent kind of fringe. So as we look, we say, all right, we'll go to market in 2022. So anything that kind of comes off patent before then is there. So we don't actually develop those therapies. On the Saga side, the kind of immune tolerization side of things, that is actually something we've developed and we can develop in-house and go forward with. But yes, we are a drug development company.
So you mentioned 4 people, but how many people are actually involved in your enterprise to make this thing happen?
Beyond our team, so our core team, a lot of it is contracted out. We use many contractors here in Kansas City and also kind of worldwide. So, you know, if we were going to build this kind of like Ewing Kauffman did with Marion Labs, that becomes a huge enterprise, right? but really to start. And because the market has changed and shifted, and there's a huge group of contract research organizations. So here in Kansas City, you have Kansas City Analytical Sciences, you have Xenometrics, you have PRA International. They have a whole bunch of analytical stuff. You have, on the clinical side, you have Quintiles. So I mean, you have these companies that have built around serving a small sector, and so we say we need to do studies X, and so we can go there. We need to do studies Y, and so we can go there. So from a kind of development standpoint, we can stay fairly virtual, which saves us a lot of kind of G&A capital cost. But on the scientific side, then we'll bring in-house scientists to kind of manage and develop those. So it's it's an interesting question. If we wanted to build, Pfizer is a huge company, tens of thousands of employees, and they're only they're not getting out 500 drugs a year. The effort to get drugs is an enormous one, and it's a team effort. So
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what your company's focus is, because you mentioned that the nanoparticles are essentially something you are licensing, and the autoimmune disease suppression is something you are actually developing. How do these two work together, or are they two different lines of business?
So they work together in the sense that the nanoclusters is an enabling technology. So one cannot really work without the other. Once we have a drug that's like a brick, and we can turn it into a nanoclustered form of that drug, then we can move that forward into the clinic. And that treats the inflammation part of the disease. And then the second part of the disease is actually treating the disease. So they can, once hopefully they're both on market, they can be used in concert. And the development pathway is very similar for both of them. And so really, instead of developing our own drugs, Pfizer doesn't develop many of their own drugs. They like to in-license stuff. And so by in-licensing those and then adding with enabling technologies, we can move it into the clinic and actually to patients a lot quicker.
So just to spin off of that question, is it your intent when you work toward commercialization of your concept or your product, and I'm still not clear on which it is, are you going to offer the service of taking these drugs and making them providing this nanoparticle aspect of it, or are you going to actually become a competitor of Pfizer? As far as
we will never compete with Pfizer. So Pfizer is going to be our end customer, right? We're going to hopefully take this into phase 1 clinical trials, and then Pfizer or Allergan or Genentech or any of those will hopefully purchase that from us and take it to market. Or we'll do it as a partnership. But that Pfizer and those pharmaceutical companies are the vehicles for smaller companies like us to actually reach patients. Because once you get into a phase 3 trial, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And unless me and Warren Buffett really get cozy, I don't think I'm going to have that type of cash. And so we're never really competing with them, but what we're doing is enabling their research and development arm, because they've really cut back on that. And to address your first question, we would love to be the people that says, we have this great drug, it's highly potent, it really has a great target, but we can't get it in the body. And say, we'll give it to you, you guys can develop it, and then give it to Pfizer. And so it's kind of that team effort is the whole way, and that's what makes up that 8 to 12 years development. And so, if we take it, we spend, a couple $10 million, and then we make a $700 million partnership. That's a pretty good deal for us. And then if we can do it again and again and again, it works out quite well.
So is this creation of the nanoparticle aspect of it, is that something that you've patented?
Yes, both technologies are patented. The great thing, if we go, I put this picture here just in case that question was asked. And so the great thing about this technology, I don't know if you can see it in the back, but this is a picture of what a nanocluster is. And so if we have a feeling that someone is infringing on our patent, all we have to do is we take it, we put it under a microscope, and if it looks anything like that, they're infringing on our patent. So our patent is actually the composition of matter of a drug substance that looks like that. So
we want to also open it up to the audience. If you've got any questions, just raise your hand.
I think we have a question up front.
Thanks. Interesting, interesting technology. Curious, when you start going through the FDA process, do you have to actually start with a new drug application, or is the drug out there just the delivery is different? And then secondly, is this something that will have to be made in a compounding pharmacy or something that could be delivered orally?
So we're doing injectables into the eye. If you deliver it orally, the eye is actually part of the central nervous system, so you have to cross the blood-brain barrier. There's a lot of, it's difficult to get drugs orally into there. So we're direct injectable. Most likely, as you said, it'll be resuspended in a compounding pharmacy. First part of your question was? No, that's the great thing is usually if we're bringing in a compound that we're going to nanocluster, it's the same drug, and so we can use any existing information prior to it. And so we have a great team that really ranges from preclinical studies all the way through our clinical sites. Our main clinical partner is actually in Omaha, University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and he is kind of the penultimate guy for anything that goes into the eyeball. And so, by mapping that out and being able to use existing data, we kind of cut down our timeline and costs, and then we can get into the clinic more rapidly.
Got a question for you here in the middle.
Nice presentation. Love your analogies that help us understand what you're doing. When you compare your therapies to the more traditional steroid therapies, can you demonstrate long-term cost savings in this world of high healthcare costs?
So this is all theoretical hypotheticals because we are not in humans now. But yes, so one of the biggest issues with steroids into the eye is the biggest side effects is it causes cataracts, glaucoma, and increased intraocular pressure. So the pressure inside your eyeball gets higher. And then because of how the drug properties are, if it sits on your eye, it causes what's called tissue death, and it's exactly what it sounds. And so a lot of these therapies out there do not have those side effects, and initial data that we have on some partner molecules or initial molecules show that you're not getting these intraocular pressure increases, which is going to decrease your cataracts and glaucoma. And so currently, as you can imagine, if you give a patient steroids and they go in and then now they have cataracts, and you can treat those, but that's an additional cost, or you have to have surgery. And so the goal for kind of our immediate impact is to alleviate that side effect profile as we bring on really that blockbuster cure. And so if you can treat the disease rather than just kind of what's called immunosuppress the patient, so make them not be able to fight anything. Now they can't fight their body, but they can't fight anything else. That would serve a much longer impact and cost savings.
We've got a question here in the back for you.
Fascinating science on this, and looking to see things breaking down like that is really kind of amazing. And everything's going to nano, and being able to treat something like that and being able to deliver drugs sounds like a fantastic idea. But rolling back just a little bit, because we didn't get any of your background in this, and where you are, and how long it took to get here, and where you're funded. And so where did the nucleus of this idea come from? Where are you in your overall stage? How close are you to actually starting your clinical trials and things like that? And how are you funded to date?
Yeah, so my background, as I said, I'm a trained scientist, and I struggle with getting into the science too deep, and so I apologize if I kind of skirted across the surface for some people. I can go down a rabbit hole like nobody's business. My background is in chemistry. All my degrees are in chemistry, biochemistry, chemistry, pharmaceutical chemistry. I actually did my undergrad in Washington State. I worked for a pharmaceutical company outside in Seattle, and then I came here to finish my PhD. So I finished my PhD in 2011, and we spun out Orion in 2012. Both technologies are from the University of Kansas, from the lab that I worked in. The kind of tolerization therapy, the one that's a lot further off, is something that I developed during my dissertation work. And then the nanocluster was invented by Corey Birkeland. And so it's quite further along. It's actually been out and done some preclinical scale up for a different company that then decided to go a different direction. From a company standpoint where we're at, we have received some SBIR grant money. We've also raised some private equity from angels here in Kansas City, Iowa, Nebraska, and Oklahoma. And so, we kind of do both arms. Especially from an investment side, they want their investment to return quickly. And that's really where the nanocluster opportunity is. The program itself is about 18 to 24 months from the clinic. And so that's really of just making sure we can continue to get money and to fund that. The whole kind of clinical pathway to where we would be talking, well, we're already talking with pharmaceutical companies, because you need to really say, what are the characteristics and drug profile and product profile that you want, so when we bring it to you, you say, yes, we will pay you money. Because if you do all this research and spend all this money and they say, we don't want that, that's a waste of a lot of time and a lot of money. So we talk to them now and say, what is it that you want? And we have our program designed for that. And the point that we would probably hand that off is about 48 months away. And so, our kind of goal is to continue to raise money either through private equity or SBIR grant, or working with a lot of these patient advocacy groups, such as for the eye is the Guthrie-Jackson Foundation, Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. There's also some other autoimmune and rare neglected diseases that offer grants to companies. So a lot of places will give grants to nonprofits. We are for profit. We are very much for profit. And so, that's kind of our goal. And so once we can get the nanoclusters into the clinic and get a return, it obviously can help feed any other program.
Got a question in the middle?
Thank you very much, Toby. Appreciate it. All righty, great presentation, Joshua. I was just intrigued to see what is Orion Biosciences' marketing strategy for the future, because I can see a lot of different things happening with this organization, a lot of great things too.
Yeah, so from a marketing standpoint, our customers are pharma. Patients, yes, are going to be the end users. You can argue, is it patients, doctors, or insurance who pays for it, but our customers are pharma. We are going to develop our product and sell it to them. And so our marketing strategy is talk to them early, talk to them often. As I said, we've had conversations with people from Pfizer, from Genentech, Alcon, you name it, we want to talk to them, and we want to get an idea of saying, what is the product that you want? Are we on the right path? What are the profile? If we develop a pill and they want an injection, or we develop an injection and they want something else, then we're way off base. So, that's kind of where our marketing efforts are lying.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about your equity investors. So when an investor takes an equity position in your company, what is it exactly that they are investing in? Are you going to go out and create a new nanoparticle machine, or are they trying to?
It's the development process. So most of our investors have experience in biotech, some don't. And really, kind of when we have those conversations and we're going through diligence, it is the process that you're investing in. So you're investing in all the studies that make sure that the drug is safe. Many times, we already know the drug works. Why spend a lot of money if you know it's not going to work in an animal model? As I said, you spend all this money looking at safety. The FDA, they care about safety, and they care about safety. Because they aren't going to put anything in a person that is not safe, or at least they don't feel as safe at that point in time. But as soon as you get into humans, it's a roll of the dice. There's so many things that have shown great data in rats, rabbits, dogs, monkeys, you name it, and they get into humans, and it's a horrible failure. So from investing standpoint, it is the development process to get into those clinical trials, because that's where the return is.
Got a question here to your left.
I'd like to follow up on the marketing aspect of this, because I'm wondering if what you're doing is developing relationships with big pharma, how do you kind of play the balance between presenting a brand of Orion Bioscience versus the core scientists that are inside this company that are working on these ideas? If I'm big pharma, I'm not sure I'm going to connect with the Orion brand. I think I'm probably more interested in the thought leadership that's inside of this organization. So how do you play that as you look to grow and explore these ideas?
Yeah, it always is a scientific conversation, right? And so really making sure that you vet the science quite well. There's opportunities for partnerships. They essentially will say, we'll help fund this program, but we want first dibs on it. But from a brand standpoint, we're going out there saying, we have this technology, and this is the company that's doing it. But it's always the technology first, right? Because when you have a group of scientists, they're like, dude, tell me the science. Like, give me some data points, give me some graphs, give me something. I want to see that data. And so it always is that technology first, where we say, like, we're developing therapies for the eye, so you got to go to those people that are developing therapies in that window. And luckily, there's only a handful of companies. So
We've got a couple questions here on your left.
Are the applications of the nanocluster infinite? Or is there a set number of potential drugs that could be used in the eye that you have identified that you would like to target once it gets through the trials?
infinite might be too big.
Okay.
But the applications for both technologies go way beyond the eye. All my research focused on multiple sclerosis, and from a kind of company development standpoint, that's like jumping into a tank with sharks. There are about 5 or 6 main players, but they all have an injectable, they all have an oral, they all have 6 different drug platforms. And I don't know if anyone watches Shark Tank, but Kevin O'Leary says they will smash you like the cockroach that you are. And so eye is a good starting point for us. It's kind of rare and neglected. It gives a good starting point for us to validate not only our technology, but our process and team, and show that we can do it. Nanoclusters themselves, we've nanoclustered about 25 different drugs from a range of classes, ranging from anti-inflammatories to insulin management to antibacterials to antifungals. So you can really, it's from addressing, it's the data. We can look at a molecule and look at its properties, and we can say that would be a good candidate for nanoclustering, or that wouldn't. There are drugs that can't, there's no point in nanoclustering a drug that already goes into water instantly. And, well, if you want to ask your follow-up, I might already be touching on it.
Yeah, real quick. Do you have to resubmit a new SBIR NIH for each one of those new types?
Absolutely.
Okay, and so, but you can get funding from the government for those?
Yeah.
Great.
And so, it's really looking at, the NIH is a huge organization with many different arms, from the NINDS to the NIAID to the NEI to any different acronym and alphabet soup that you want. And so really in looking at there and saying, all right, this group is focusing on neural repair, this group is focusing on inflammation at the back of the eye, or this group is focusing on autoimmune disease, or this, and then writing those grants directly to those people. I do a lot of writing.
Okay, we've got a question here to your left.
I want to pick up on you do a lot of writing. It seems to me that the current process that you're describing, the SBIR and NIH and all of that, is starting to look obsolescent from the standpoint of the risk management of intellectual property. So I'm wondering, are you or any of the folks that you're sort of on the front edge with starting to think about alternative ways to structure ownership in the risk with these highly complex development arcs?
Yeah, I would love if someone walked up and gave me $10 million. That would solve all my problems. But from a granting aspect and how it kind of works, when it's free money, you kind of do what you have to do. Because through the SBIR process and a lot of these grants, you can get upwards of $2-3 million free. No equity, no changes in the company. And so, it's kind of a double-edged sword, and it's a lot longer and deeper conversation than we probably have time for. But yeah, we do look at it all the time.
Joe, I think we've got time for one more question.
Just a quick question. The nanoclusters, are they carbon?
No, it's drug. So the drug that we start with is the drug that comes out. That's kind of that lollipop analogy. A lollipop is sugar, and powdered sugar is sugar. It's the same thing the whole way around. And so it's just a different way. We just make the drug look different, but it's still the same exact thing. And that's the biggest thing, because there are a lot of competing technologies that achieve the same kind of, from a data perspective, that we can get the same kind of activity and PK curves and all that. But they usually change the form of the drug. So you can have a drug be in 4 or 5 different forms, and to the FDA, that's 4 or 5 different entities. But by being able to nanocluster and have it the same as it went in, as it came out, we can use any existing data that's been submitted to the FDA. It's the same thing. So I'm sorry I didn't make that clear. It's not a delivery technology. It's a way to formulate the drug so that we can then get the activity and characteristics in the body that we want.
So we're probably out of time, but I know that many elements will actually change their properties in nano form. So are you encountering that, and is that part of your technology?
And so that's where we look at the molecule itself, kind of in the pre-screening and then in the initial formulation stuff. So we'll nanocluster it. It's kind of like a milling technique where we are smashing the drug with little ceramic balls, and then we take the end product, and then we do a whole bunch of analysis to make sure that it's exactly the same. So we can look at the crystal structure, we can look at the physical characteristics, we can look at everything from under a microscope to in laboratory instruments. And so there's a lot of rigorous testing that goes around to say that, we put X in, and the nanocluster X that came out is the same thing. And so any data that's generated with that regarding safety or activity is submittable to the FDA.
One final question for you, Michael. Thanks again for such a great presentation, by the way. As a community, what can we do to help you?
So really don't be scared of science. Science is great. I volunteer with the STEM Alliance. From a young person aspect and everything, just kind of continue that, because we have such a great culture of drug development, and I think sometimes people lose that with what Ewing Kauffman did. And there are a ton of drug development companies in this area, kind of ranging from K-State to Missouri, University of Missouri. As a Jayhawk, we collaborate with them, but it still kind of pains me. And really to support the industry as a whole, because when Mr. Kauffman did it, he did it with $10,000 in his basement. If I did that now, I would get free room and board for the rest of my life. But the government doesn't like it as much. And so kind of getting that culture of excitement around drug development, the opportunities for small companies, and to understand that biotech is just a small part of that very long and expensive process, but it's very doable, and it's extremely doable here in Kansas City because of the talent and low cost of goods and living and all that great stuff that everybody loves. So.
Thank you, Michael.
Joshua.
Josh, I'm sorry. I guess I'm thinking of your CBO.
Yeah, he's our Swiss Army knife.
Excellent presentation. Thanks so
Thank
much
you
for coming out. Well, I think that's it for today. We want to thank everyone for coming out to 1 Million Cups. A couple of quick things. I believe Sprint Accelerator is open today for co-working. I see Ari, there she is. If you got any questions, you can certainly ask her, but I think it starts immediately after. So if you want to continue to have some more cups of coffee, they've got plenty of coffee there. Also, I believe on January, is it 23rd? December 23rd and 30th, we are on a break for the Christmas holiday at 1 Million Cups. So if you show up, you might be the only one here. Thank you.